Admiral Juan Park stood at the large window of the orbital station, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The blue-green planet seemed so peaceful from up here. No one down there knew what was about to happen. "Admiral, they're arriving," said Lieutenant Minho beside her. Park nodded, her face carefully neutral. "Let's not keep our guests waiting." The meeting room featured a circular table with the Earth flag prominently displayed. The human diplomats were already seated when Park entered. She took her place at the back of the room, where she could observe without being noticed. The doors slid open. The alien representatives entered, 3 Valkyrie and 2 Mizone diplomats. The Valkyrie moved with surprising grace despite their massive crystalline exoskeletons that reflected the room's lights in dazzling patterns. Beside them, the Mizone floated just above the floor, their tentacles swaying gently as they propelled themselves forward. "We welcome the representatives of the Galactic Concord," said Foreign Secretary Juno, rising to greet them. "Earth is honored by your presence." The lead Valkyrie made a sound like grinding glass, their version of a polite acknowledgement. "The Concord has reviewed your petition for membership," it said through a translator device. "We have reached a decision." Park noticed how the human diplomats leaned forward, expressions hopeful. The charade was well practiced. Every person in this room knew what the aliens would say. They had been preparing for this moment for decades. "Earth may join the Concord," the Valkyrie announced. "With conditions." "We would be grateful to hear them," Juno replied. The Mizone diplomat floated forward, its skin shifting through shades of blue. "Your military capabilities must be reduced. Your weapons are primitive, but potentially disruptive to regional peace." "Disruptive?" Juno asked, feigning confusion. "Your reliance on nuclear weapons and your pattern of conflicts troubles many council members," the Mizone explained. "You must reduce your armed forces by 60% before full membership." Park kept her face expressionless, though inside she was smiling. The aliens saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see, a species still figuring out how to work together, barely capable of reaching their own moon without tremendous effort. They had no idea about the shipyards hidden in Jupiter's clouds, the quantum technology reverse-engineered from a crashed scout ship found in Antarctica 70 years ago, or the fleet of warships that had never appeared in any official record. "We understand," Juno said with appropriate humility. "Earth will consider these terms carefully." The meeting continued for another hour before the aliens departed. Once they were gone, Foreign Secretary Juno approached Park. "They believe we're children playing with matches," he said quietly. Park nodded. "Good. Let's hope we never have to show them otherwise." But that hope lasted exactly 23 days. Park was reviewing fleet deployment plans when the emergency alert sounded. 3 human colony worlds had come under attack simultaneously. New Eden, Arcadia, and Terra Nova, all under siege by the Phyrexian Empire, a minor power from the Outer Rim. The Concord representatives called minutes later. "This is unfortunate," the Valkyrie diplomat said. "The Phyrexian are not technically Concord members, but we will send observers." "Observers?" Chunho's voice was incredulous. "They're bombing civilian settlements." "We can offer humanitarian aid afterward," the Mizone replied. "Perhaps this incident will demonstrate why expansion without proper protection is unwise for developing species." After the call ended, Chunho looked at Park. "They're using this as a lesson, teaching us our place." Park stood up. "Then it's time for a different lesson." She picked up a secure comm unit. "This is Admiral Park. Authorization code Phoenix Rising. Activate Jupiter Fleet." Across the solar system, hidden bases came to life. Ships that officially didn't exist powered up drives that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. Weapons that the Concord would have immediately banned if they knew about them were brought online. As reports of civilian casualties came in from the colonies, Park boarded her command shuttle. Lieutenant Minho handed her the final deployment orders. "The President has authorized full countermeasures," he said quietly. Park nodded. "The Concord thinks we're helpless without them. The Phyrexians think we're easy targets. She looked at the tactical display showing the enemy positions. They're all about to learn how wrong they are. As her shuttle approached the hidden fleet, Park felt a strange calm. Humanity had hoped to join the galactic community as peaceful partners. Instead, they would enter it revealing their true strength. "Send word to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Revelation begins now." Deep within Jupiter's swirling storms, hidden shipyards came to life. Lights flickered on across massive structures that had never appeared on any official record. Workers moved with practiced efficiency, their faces showing both excitement and fear. This day had always been a possibility, but few had truly believed it would come. Captain Do-Yeon Kim walked through the final security checkpoint toward his ship. The ESS Thermopylae waited ahead, its dark hull absorbing the light around it. Unlike the bulky transport vessels that Earth showed to alien visitors, this was a true warship. Sleek, deadly, and packed with technology that would shock the galactic Concorde. "Captain on deck," announced First Officer Jia as Kim stepped onto the bridge. The crew stood at attention. Kim nodded at them, feeling the weight of the moment. "At ease. Status report." "All systems green," Jia replied. "Quantum drive at full capacity. Weapons systems online. We're ready." Kim took his command chair, running his hand along the smooth control panel. The ship felt alive under his touch, humming with energy. He thought about his grandfather, who had been among the first to study the crashed alien scout ship found in the Arctic a century ago. The old man had devoted his life to understanding that technology, knowing someday humanity might need it. "Your species smiles, trades, and makes friends," his grandfather had told him during their last conversation. "But never forget, the universe is rarely kind to the unprepared." Those words had guided Earth's secret military development for decades. While showing the galaxy a face of peaceful development, humanity had been building its insurance policy. "Opening atmospheric channel," announced Communications Officer Taiho. "Jupiter base confirms 50 vessels ready for deployment. We are designated lead ship." Through the main viewport, Kim watched as the massive bay doors began to open. Jupiter's swirling clouds parted, revealing the dark void of space beyond. "Prepare for atmospheric breakout," Kim ordered. "Formation Delta. All ships maintain stealth protocols until we clear the magnetosphere." The Thermopylae lifted smoothly from its cradle. Throughout the shipyard, other vessels, destroyers, cruisers, and support craft did the same. None had ever been logged in any database accessible to alien eyes. None had ever traveled beyond the protective clouds of Jupiter. Until today. "Sir," Taiho interrupted, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. President Yoonji wants to address the fleet." Kim nodded. "Put her through to all ships." The president's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was solemn. "Captains and crews of the Jupiter fleet," she began, "today we reveal what humanity has kept hidden for generations. I wish it were under better circumstances. The attack on our colonies leaves us no choice. You carry with you not just our finest technology, but the hopes of every human being. Defend our people. Show the galaxy that humanity will not be victimized." The transmission ended. The bridge remained silent for a moment. "Quite the send-off," Jia said quietly. Kim nodded. "Let's make it worth it." The Thermopylae broke through Jupiter's cloud cover first, its quantum shields dispersing the atmospheric gases in a shimmer of blue energy. Behind it came the rest of the fleet, 50 warships of various sizes, each bristling with weapons the Concorde believed were centuries beyond human capability. "Nearest jump point is 30 minutes away at standard drive," reported Navigator Minji. "Take us there," Kim ordered. "All ships, maintain formation." As the fleet accelerated away from Jupiter, alerts began sounding on Earth. The Concorde ambassadors, watching in shock as their sensor arrays detected the massive fleet, immediately demanded explanations. In the presidential office, Yoonji faced the alien representatives calmly. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Valkyrie ambassador, crystal exoskeleton flashing with agitated patterns. These vessels were never declared in your military assessments. You said we expanded too quickly without adequate protection, the president replied. We've decided to handle this situation ourselves. These ships, the Mazone diplomats' tentacles writhed in distress. They show technology far beyond what your species should possess. President Yunji merely smiled. Perhaps you should have looked more closely at us before making that assessment. Aboard the Thermopylae, Kim received confirmation that the fleet had been detected. So much for the element of surprise, Jia commented. Kim shook his head. The surprise isn't that we have ships. The surprise is what they can do. The fleet reached the jump point, their quantum drives powering up to create the artificial wormhole that would take them to the colony worlds under attack. All ships report ready for jump, Taiho announced. Kim took a deep breath. Then let's introduce ourselves to the Phyrexians. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The space before them twisted, opened, and swallowed the fleet whole. Humanity's true power was finally being unleashed upon the stars. The Phyrexian commander Urkel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching with satisfaction as his fleet bombarded the human colony below. 3 days into the attack, and the primitive humans had offered exactly the resistance he had expected, almost none. A few pathetic orbital defense platforms, quickly destroyed. Some ground-based weapons, silenced within hours. Status report, Urkel demanded. His second-in-command approached with a data tablet. The main settlement is 70% destroyed. We have destroyed all military installations. The mining facilities remain intact as ordered. Urkel nodded, pleased. The Phyrexian Empire needed those rare mineral deposits, and humans were too weak to deserve them. The Concord had practically invited this attack with their dismissive assessment of human capabilities. Any response from their homeworld? He asked. Nothing of consequence. Our scouts report no military movements in the Sol system. Urkel laughed, a harsh barking sound that echoed across the bridge. As expected, the Concord was right. These humans are helpless without protection. Prepare landing parties. I want those mines secured by. Commander. The sensor officer's voice cut through his orders. Unknown signatures at the edge of the system. Urkel turned, annoyed at the interruption. Identify. Impossible to say, sir. They appeared suddenly. Quantum signatures, but not matching any known configuration. Urkel moved to the sensor display. The readings showed approximately 50 vessels had appeared at the system's edge. He studied the energy outputs, then dismissed them with a wave. Human reinforcements. Pathetic. Their ships barely have functioning shields. Maintain bombardment schedule. His officers returned to their tasks. Urkel wasn't concerned. His 30 destroyer-class vessels represented mid-tier Phyrexian military power, more than enough to handle whatever primitive fleet Earth had cobbled together. That was his first and final mistake. On the bridge of the Thermopylae, Captain Doyeon Kim studied the tactical display. The Phyrexian fleet was arranged in standard attack formation above the colony, continuing their bombardment without regard for the new arrivals. They're ignoring us, tactical officer Subin Lee noted. Kim nodded. They don't know what we are. Let's show them. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All vessels, deploy into hammer formation. Weapons free. Primary targets are bombardment vessels. Protect the colony at all costs. The human fleet accelerated suddenly, moving at speeds that the Phyrexian sensors could barely track. The Thermopylae led the charge, its quantum drives pushing it forward with impossible acceleration. Inside the Phyrexian flagship, alarms began blaring. Commander, the human vessels. They are moving at. This can't be right. The sensor officer looked up, confused. These readings suggest they have quantum displacement technology. Urkel's confidence faltered for the first time. Impossible. Humans don't have. Sir, they're deploying weapons. Energy signatures unknown. On the Thermopylae, Kim gave the order. Activate gravitational shears. The human ships released what looked like pulses of blue-white energy. Where these pulses touched Phyrexian ships, Space itself seemed to ripple and tear. The alien vessels didn't explode. They imploded, collapsing inward as the very fabric of space-time warped around them. Their exotic matter drives, suddenly destabilized, collapsed into miniature black holes that winked out of existence seconds later. First wave of targets neutralized, Subin reported, sounding almost disappointed. They never even got a shot off. Kim watched the tactical display as 10 Vrexian destroyers simply vanished from existence. Move to secondary targets. Protect the colony surface. Aboard the Vrexian flagship, panic erupted. Commander Urkel stared in disbelief as a third of his fleet disappeared in less than a minute. "What is happening?" he demanded. "What weapons are these?" "Unknown, sir. They're manipulating gravity somehow, warping space around our ships. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire with everything we have." The remaining Vrexian ships attempted to scatter, firing energy weapons toward the human fleet. But their shots dissipated harmlessly against quantum shields they couldn't understand. The human vessels moved with impossible precision, each targeting specific Vrexian ships. "Sir," Kim's communications officer reported, "the Vrexian flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're requesting to surrender." Kim's expression remained cold. "Tell them we accept their surrender. All Vrexian personnel are to board escape pods immediately. Their ships will be scuttled." Across the Tav Ceti system, the pattern was clear. Of 30 Vrexian destroyers, 25 had been completely destroyed. The remaining 5 were powered down, their crews evacuating in terror. Similar reports came in from the other attacked colonies. The human response had been coordinated across 3 star systems. In each location, the Vrexian forces had encountered the same devastating weapons and tactics. As Kim watched the escape pods launch from the Vrexian flagship, he thought about what this moment meant. Humanity had revealed itself, not as the primitive species the galaxy believed them to be, but as something far more dangerous. A civilization that had learned the hard way to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. "Send word to Earth," Kim ordered. "Operation Revelation complete. All colonies secured." Humanity's true military doctrine was now revealed to the galaxy. Overwhelming force deployed with surgical precision, and the wisdom to know when to stop. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concord buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 200 species filled the circular chamber, their voices creating a storm of sounds, clicks, whistles, rumbles, and speech. At the center stood the raised platform where the High Council sat, 12 ancient species who had guided the Concord for millennia. Admiral Juan Park waited in the antechamber, her dress uniform crisp and formal. Beside her stood Captain Do-Yeon Kim and President Yoonji. None of them spoke. The footage they carried would do all the necessary talking. "They have called for sanctions before we even speak," President Yoonji said quietly. Park nodded. "They're afraid. Fear makes people do stupid things." "Are humans ready for this?" Kim asked. "We've hidden for so long." "We're not hiding anymore," Park replied simply. The doors opened. A Concord aide, a tall insect-like being, motioned them forward. "The assembly will hear Earth's representatives now." They walked into the chamber together. The noise died immediately. Hundreds of alien eyes followed their movement toward the central speaking platform. The Mizone ambassador spoke first, his tentacles rippling with agitation. "The assembly has been deceived. Humanity claimed primitive technology while secretly building weapons of mass destruction." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Valkyrie representative rose next, crystalline body glittering under the lights. "We propose immediate sanctions against Earth. Their fleet must be surrendered to Concord control. Their technology must be contained." More voices joined in support. The High Council observed silently. President Yoonji stepped forward to speak, but Admiral Park gently touched her arm. This was a military matter now. The president nodded and stepped back. Park moved to the center of the platform. Unlike many military leaders who relied on volume and force, she spoke quietly, making the assembly strain to hear her words. For thousands of years, your civilizations have treated newcomers as either pawns or protectorates, she began. You see us as children playing with dangerous toys. You demanded we disarm while offering protection you couldn't guarantee. She activated a small device. Above the platform, a holographic display flickered to life, showing the battle in the Ta City system. This is what happened when the Phyrexian Empire attacked our colonies, Park continued. Where was the Concord's protection then? Your ambassadors offered observers and suggested we had expanded too quickly. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the footage showed Phyrexian ships, considered mid-tier threats by Concord standards, being systematically dismantled by human technology. The gravitational shears tore apart vessel after vessel without giving them a chance to respond. These weapons, the Pholox representative gasped, they manipulate space-time itself. Impossible for such a young species, another voice called out. Park shut off the display. We kept these capabilities secret because history taught us caution. We watched how the Concord treated other emerging civilizations, how you demanded they limit their military power, then failed to protect them when threats emerge. She looked directly at the High Council now. The Phyrexian attack proved our caution was justified. The Mizone ambassador floated forward angrily. You deceived the Concord. You broke our most sacred laws of disclosure. Laws designed to keep emerging species dependent on your protection, Park countered. A protection that proves remarkably absent when actually needed. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and denials. Park stood calmly in the center, waiting for the noise to subside. When it finally did, she continued, humanity doesn't seek dominance. We don't want your territories or resources. We seek partnership. Her voice grew stronger. But true partnership requires respect, not patronization. She gestured to Captain Kim. The captain who led our fleet could have destroyed every Phyrexian ship. Instead, he accepted their surrender and spared thousands of lives. That restraint, the choice not to use power when you have it, that is humanity's true strength. The silence that followed was deafening. The entire assembly seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the eldest member of the High Council, a zenith whose species had traveled the stars for 1,000,000 years, leaned forward. In my 10,000 years in this chamber, the ancient being said, its voice like rustling leaves, I have seen many civilizations rise. Some choose conquest, some isolation. What does humanity choose? Hark looked at the president, who stepped forward to answer. We choose to be part of this community, President Yunji said simply, but as equals, not as children. We will not surrender our fleet. We will not dismantle our defenses, but we offer our hand in friendship to any who will take it. As they left the chamber, Park knew that nothing would be the same again. The balance of power had shifted visibly, irrevocably. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants, but as a force to be reckoned with. For better or worse, the universe now knew humanity's true face. Admiral Do-Hyun Kim stood on the observation deck of the newly built Concord Joint Command Station. Through the massive window, he watched ships from a dozen species moving in perfect formation. 6 months had passed since the Jupiter revelation, and everything had changed. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Park said, joining him at the window. Kim nodded. The Valkyrie battlecruisers are adapting well to our joint maneuvers. They're practical, Park replied. Once they saw our true capabilities, they were the first to accept the new reality. Below them, the gleaming ships continued their dance. Human vessels flew alongside alien craft that, until recently, would have considered them primitives barely worth noticing. Now they practice together as equals. The Mizone delegation is arriving today, Park mentioned. They finally agreed to join the Sentinel Protocol. Kim smiled slightly. It only took them 6 months to swallow their pride. Pride is a stubborn thing, Park said. Finding out a child species had technology that surpassed yours in certain domains, it's not easy to accept. The Sentinel Protocol had been Earth's first initiative after joining the Concord as a full member. It established a mutual defense agreement specifically designed to protect developing civilizations from exploitation or attack. Already, 37 species had signed on, with the Mizone becoming the 38th today. Admiral Kim, you're needed in Conference Room 1. A voice announced over the comm. The Mizone delegation is ready to begin the signing ceremony. Kim straightened his uniform. So much had changed since he had commanded the Thermopylae. Now an admiral, he had become the face of human military power throughout the galaxy, respected, even feared, but not hated. That distinction mattered to him. In the conference room, representatives from a dozen species waited. The Mizone ambassador floated at the head of his delegation, tentacles arranged in a formal pattern indicating respect, something they had never shown humans before. Admiral Kim, the Mizone greeted him. We are prepared to join your Sentinel protocol. We welcome your participation, Kim replied simply. As the formal documents were exchanged, Kim reflected on how differently things might have gone. Humanity could have used their hidden fleet to demand concessions, to take territory, to force technology exchanges. Many in the military had argued for exactly that. But President Kang had been firm. Humanity would reveal its strength, but also its wisdom. After the ceremony, Kim found himself alone with the Mizone ambassador. I must confess, the alien said, its skin shifting through thoughtful patterns of blue and green. Many in the Concord expected your species to behave differently after revealing your true capabilities. How so? Kim asked, though he knew the answer. Historically, when a species discovers it possesses superior firepower, expansion and domination follow. The ambassador's tentacles moved in what Kim had learned was a gesture of puzzlement. Yet you established the Sentinel Protocol instead. You offer protection to species who can give you nothing in return. Kim looked out at the stars. We remember what it was like to be alone in the dark, Ambassador. To look up at the stars and wonder if anyone would help us if trouble came. We built our ships because we had to assume the answer was no. And now we can be the help we once hoped for, Kim said simply. Later that day, Kim attended the full Concord Assembly with President Kang. The hall fell silent as the human president took the podium. Unlike 6 months ago, the silence now was one of respect, not shock. The strength of any community, President Kang said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, is measured not by how it treats its powerful members, but by how it protects its vulnerable ones. We remember being alone in the dark. We remember preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. Now that we have stepped into the light, we intend to ensure it shines on everyone equally. As applause filled the chamber, Kim caught Park's eye across the room. They both knew the truth. Humanity had been underestimated for the first and last time. The true nature of human military power wasn't just in their gravitational shears or quantum drives. It was in their restraint, in their choice to use power to protect rather than dominate, and in the implicit understanding throughout the galaxy that such restraint was a choice, not a necessity. 6 months after revealing their hidden fleet, humans had changed the course of galactic politics not through force, but through the power of example. The Pax Humana, as some called it, had begun, not as an empire, but as a promise. A promise that no developing civilization would ever again have to face the darkness alone.